Hey everyone.
Hey everybody.
Welcome to another Travel Therapy Mentor video. Today we're going to be talking about holidays working as a traveler, as well as starting new contracts going into the new year. We've gotten some questions about that recently. People asking about how to handle holidays during the week when you're on a travel assignment and your facility's closed, or if your facility's open, do you get paid holiday pay? We get a lot of those questions around this time of year, so we want to make a video and talk a little bit more about it. So Whitney's going to introduce us, and then we will go ahead and jump in.
All right. Thanks for joining. We are live on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks for everyone who's watching live, and then shout out to you guys that will watch later on our YouTube channel or listen on our podcast. We are Whitney and Jared Cazaza. We're both traveling doctors of physical therapy. We started traveling therapy back in 2015 when we were new grad therapists. Over the years, we've worked on and off as travel therapists. Right now, we're spending some time at home with our one-year-old baby as we're just starting a family and kind of moving into a new phase of life. Over the years, we have mentored thousands of other therapists that are either current travelers or aspiring to be travel therapists. So if you are new to travel therapy, we are happy to help you. We have helped many others like yourself. Tonight's topic, talking about holiday planning and New Year planning. A lot of this will apply to both current travelers and those of you that are thinking about getting into travel next year. Some of the stuff that we're going to talk about, it may be a little bit late for your planning around the holidays for this year, but it can definitely help you for future holiday planning and how to strategize your contracts. Before we dive into the topic, we'd love if you would say hello in the comments if you are watching live. Hit the thumbs up button, let us know you're there. Let us know if you have any questions about travel therapy or tonight's topic. Also want to give a quick reminder, we are going to be doing our annual end of year giveaways in about 2 weeks. So hard to believe that we're only 2 weeks away from 2026. For those that aren't familiar, every year we give over $1,000 in gift cards away to some of our followers. So the big way that you can win those giveaways is if you took contracts with one of our recommended recruiters this year. So if you know that you reached out to us for recruiter recommendations and you took a contract with one of our recruiters this year, you're eligible for that giveaway. All you have to do is fill out the entry form on our website at traveltherapymentor.com. I think it's like traveltherapymentor.com/giveaway. You can click on the menu, find the giveaway entry form. 5 therapists who took contracts will win $200 each for that. So go ahead and get your entries in for that. And then in addition to that, we're going to give away $100 to someone who leaves us a review on either our Facebook page or on Apple Podcasts. Just need to send us a screenshot of your review to get entered for that one. Also $100 for someone who leaves a review on our travel therapy course. And then we'll announce soon when the video, we do it live, so you guys can see who is chosen randomly for the giveaways. When we do that live video, if you tune in live, we'll pick one person who's watching live and give them $50 as well.
Yep.
So yeah, make sure to tune in.
And for that contract completion giveaway, we only have 40 entries this year, and I think we've got like 250 people that are eligible. So anybody filling out the form right now has pretty good odds of winning. I mean, 40, and we're going to choose 5. So yeah, odds are pretty good.
Yeah, so make sure to get those entry forms in if you know that you took a contract with one of our recommended recruiters. So there's a bunch of you out there that are eligible that just haven't filled out the form yet.
Yep.
All right, so let's dive into the topic. So I want to talk a little bit about what does it look like as a traveler if you're working through the holidays. So if your contract goes through Christmas, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
Yep. The first thing to think about is whether or not you have guaranteed hours in your contract. If you're not sure about that, go back to your contract, read through what you signed, and see if there's any sort of guarantee. It might be 32 hours, it might be 24 hours, it might be 40 hours. If you have a 40-hour guarantee, then that kind of changes things for some companies. So there are some companies out there that will pay you for, like say your facility's closed, you have a 40-hour guarantee, so you can't work on that day. There's some companies that will still pay you for that day, even if you missed that day of work. We had several times in the years that we traveled where we got paid for holidays where we were off. So if you have a 40-hour guarantee, it kind of changes things. If you don't have a 40-hour guarantee, well then chances are if your facility's closed and you can't make up that time, then you're not going to get paid for that day. So then you need to plan ahead and try to either switch your schedule around or something to make it so that you can make up those hours.
Yeah, and it really just depends on the contract. It depends on both the facility and the travel therapy staffing company if your guaranteed hours count on holiday weeks, because there will be certain companies that will have some fine print in there that say that the guaranteed hours don't apply on a holiday week. So they'll say, you know, it excludes holidays, so they're not going to pay you for a day that you're off. So you really need to check this. in advance. If you haven't checked it already, check it now so that there's no surprises in a week or two when you get your paycheck and you're like, wait a minute, I thought I was getting paid for these hours and now I'm not.
Yeah, the majority of companies won't pay for holidays. If the facility's closed, you can't make up those hours, then you just won't get paid for those, even if you have a 40-hour guarantee. And it will say that in your contract. It will say 40-hour guarantee except for these scenarios, and one of them is holidays. But there are some companies that will pay you. So it depends on the company, it depends on the facility, and it depends on your guarantee.
So if you find out that your facility is going to be closed that day and you're not going to get paid for those hours, find out if there's a way that you could change your schedule for that week so you can make up some of those hours if you want to. I mean, if it's not a big deal to you and you don't mind missing some hours that week, but some people are really all about getting their full 40 hours of paycheck. So you want to find out, occasionally, sometimes they'll let you like work a weekend before, or something like that, a weekend day if it's a facility that has weekend hours, or if it's a facility that has longer than an 8-hour work day, maybe you could just work a couple extra hours during the week to make up some of those hours. So there's some strategies you can use there to try to make up those hours.
And like we've talked about in the past, a lot of this depends on your priorities. So there are people that travel, travel pay is really good. You're already saving a lot of money. There's people that don't care that if you miss those hours, it's not a big deal. For us, when we were in the very first 3 or 4 years of our traveling careers, we were really trying to hustle and save. If we weren't going to get paid for those days, we knew, or for that the holiday, for those hours, then we would do anything possible to make it up. So there was a lot of times where we worked the weekend before or the weekend after. A lot of weeks, they start on Sunday and end on Saturday, right? So there's some situations, say you work at a SNF, where you could work the Sunday before if the holiday, say Christmas falls on a Wednesday. I don't know what day it actually falls on. But say it falls on a Wednesday, you could work the Sunday before or you could work the Saturday after. And you would just coordinate with your facility and try to make that work. And obviously if it's a clinic that's closed on the weekends, it's more difficult. But we've also done things where we turned it into 410s the other days of the week to make up for the day missed. So depending on the facility and depending on your manager, there's a lot of things you can do to try to make up those hours. Something
important here to mention about guaranteed hours as well. If you haven't encountered this yet on one of your contracts or on your current contract with your current company, find out if your travel therapy staffing company guarantees your stipends or not. Because for some of you, if you're working for one of the staffing companies that does guarantee the stipends, then missing one full day or a few hours of work one week may actually not impact your pay as much as you thought. Sometimes when your travel therapy staffing company guarantees the stipends, you're only going to get deductions on your hourly pay, which really doesn't impact your pay that much. However, a lot of travel therapy companies deduct from both your stipends and your hourly, which does cut into your pay more. So it's really important that you kind of understand the way that your contract works and the way that your pay is going to be adjusted for any missed hours on holiday weeks.
And again, most companies do not guarantee stipends. So if you're not sure, chances are that your company does not guarantee that, but it's always good to know.
Yeah, and so if you're really not sure, first look at your contract, but if it's not clear to you, then reach out to your recruiter and they can help to clarify those questions for you.
Yeah.
Now, what about in the case that you asked off for the holiday? So you chose to take some time off for the holidays and you requested days off. Again, in most circumstances, if you're the one who asked for the time off, you're not getting paid for those days. But again, for some of those companies that guarantee the stipends, you need to ask that question and clarify, am I going to have my stipends and my hourly deducted, or just my hourly for the days I asked off? In most cases, it's going to be all of it is going to be deducted because you're the one requesting time off, but it's good to ask.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely in most cases, if you're asking off for the holidays, like you want to go home or something, you're not going to get paid for those hours. But for a lot of people, that's fine.
Yeah. Now, what about the reverse scenario? Say that you are actually working on the holiday. This happened to us sometimes as travelers. Sometimes we kind of got the short end of the stick where if we didn't particularly ask off, like in our contract, prearranging the days off, then we were the ones that were asked to work on the holiday. So maybe you're working in acute care or skilled nursing and they do want you to go in on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or New Year's Day. If that's the case, you want to check your contract and again, maybe ask your recruiter if you're getting extra pay for working the holiday. In some cases you might. Some cases you might get the equivalent of like an overtime pay or a holiday pay, but not always. Sometimes that's not written into your contract and it's just regular pay that day.
Yeah. Kind of like everything travel related, it depends. I guess everything therapy related in general. But it might sound like we're just saying it depends for everything, but it really does depend on the facility, the travel company. It depends on your contract. It depends on your guarantees. So you really don't know. Like we've had situations before where we worked a holiday and we didn't get holiday pay, and we worked with other companies where we worked the holiday and we did get holiday pay. So just look at your contract, know ahead of time. For most people, it's not a big deal either way, but it's good to just know up front what to expect. It's like the worst case scenario is you're expecting to get paid extra. You work a holiday, you're all excited about it, and you get your paycheck and you didn't. So just know what to expect.
Yeah, and if you're coming into this for the first time, maybe you're on your first or second contract and you've never dealt with this before, and then suddenly you're like, wow, I really feel like I got the short end of the stick. This is just some information for you to know that next time when your contract is going to cross through the holidays, you need to ask all these questions up front prior to signing your contract. And if it doesn't look the way you want it to look, try to negotiate that in next time. Maybe next time you're like, you know what, I am willing to work the holiday at a price, right? Like if you're willing to pay me overtime pay or holiday pay. Otherwise, I'm going to have it written into my contract next time that I'm taking those days off.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely good things to know as you're preparing for both the upcoming holiday weeks and then for next year too. And again, this also applies for some other holidays. I would say that, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's are going to be the biggest one where facilities are closed, but there could be others. We have worked some places where maybe the clinic was closed for 4th of July or something like that.
Yeah. So some travelers choose to stop their contract before the holidays. So some people will finish their contract, say, the middle of December and not start their next one until January. I'd say that's pretty common. And then go home for the holidays and, you know, start fresh in the new year. We, for the most part, when we were traveling the first few years, we really wanted to be on contract during the holidays and either work the holiday or work the weekend before or after to make up the hours, just because starting a contract at the beginning of the year or ending one, starting one at the end of the year, it's a little bit difficult because you know how everywhere is kind of, people are kind of phoning it in at the end of the year and the beginning of the next year. So there's a lot of situations where if you're trying to get a start date like right before Christmas or right at the new year, it's difficult. There's a lot of competition and there's a lot of people that, you know, they're not really as responsive during that time of the year as they normally would be.
Yeah, so, you know, this comes into planning for future situations now. So we're thinking about current travelers and future travelers. For next holiday season, you know, there's some strategies you can use. We generally do recommend that if you want to be starting in January, if possible, try to go ahead and lock that in before the holidays. If possible, try to start before the holidays, and maybe you could just ask for the days off through the holidays, but still be working, because you're going to beat out some of the competition that only wants to start in January. You know, if you're willing to start December 1st or December 15th and then just say, okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and start and get trained and get going. And then just, can I request these days off to go home, and then I'll come back and, you know, continue my contract. Sometimes that can help you beat out in a negotiation. But there are a lot of people that are just like, you know what, I'm just going to take off 2 weeks and I'll, you know, just let my chances be whatever it's going to be for January 1st.
You know, something we did to try to minimize like missed pay and things during the holidays, because it can be hard to get all your hours during that time, especially if you want to go home and see family. We would try to take contracts closer to home for that period of time, if it was feasible. So we had situations where we worked 3 hours away or 4 hours away or 5 hours away, where say the weekend before Christmas or the weekend after Christmas, we could drive home on Friday evening, stay till Sunday night, drive back, and then we could still like spend the holidays with family, but also still get paid the full amount for our contracts. Like I said, for some people that's not as important. You're fine just taking 2 or 3 days off and not getting paid for those, but we were trying to hustle and save as much as we could.
Yeah. There were other circumstances where, like, if the holiday was in the middle of the week, we would just agree to work the holiday and then just go home on the weekend or at a different time and celebrate with our family. In our opinions, it's not always that important to celebrate on the day of the holiday, because for us, it's like the most important part is that your family is there. So who cares if it's the 25th or the 26th or the 27th? It's like, it's still, you know, the time with your family. So definitely something to consider there, just some different strategies you can use when you're negotiating your contracts. Ideally, you can always get the best of both worlds. You can try to, you know, get your full pay, still have the holidays with your family. But when these jobs are really competitive, depending on, you know, the setting and the location, there are certain strategies you can use to negotiate and be like, fine, I'll work the holiday if you'll let me do X, Y, and Z. So yeah, definitely some things to take into account there for future planning. Now, as we get past the holidays and we look into 2026, we've already had so many people reach out to us saying that they're ready to start in the new year. Whether that's a new grad that, you know, took the boards. I think it was the PT boards are like in December, and then they're going to take a contract. They finish their graduation in December. They're going to take a contract as a new grad in the new year. Or some people just like that clean break of like, I'm leaving my permanent job at the end of the year, and I'm going to start this new adventure at the beginning of the next year. Very common. We hear this all the time.
Now, what you have to remember with that sort of thinking is that it's not just you thinking that way. Almost everybody's thinking that way. That's the reason New Year's resolutions are a thing. Everybody kind of wants to have a delineation between the past and the future, I guess. And the first of the year is a very good day or the most common day I would say that people choose that. So if you're someone that is, finishing your contract middle of December or at the end of December before Christmas, and then you're planning to start January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, as soon as possible in the new year, remember that a lot of people also feel the same way. And that can be difficult because that means there's a lot of competition for the jobs during that time. And right now, therapists are in really high demand. PTs are in extremely high demand. So it's probably not going to be as big of a concern as it was at some points in the past. But in the past, like say 2018, 19, 20, there was times in January where the job market was kind of like frozen because there was so many therapists looking for jobs, and there was so many jobs that were either already filled or they were moving really slowly because they were working on new budgets for the beginning of the year, and it was just like very hard for people to start during that first 1 or 2 weeks of the year. So keep in mind that if you do want to start a contract the first or second week of January, it can often be more competitive and more difficult to start during that time.
Yeah, and it's not even just the competition. That's part of it. Is like, do they need the staffing then, or are they already full and they don't need the staffing? But also just the logistics of getting started. Because when you go to get started for a contract, you have to do all of your credentialing and your onboarding. And this requires a lot of staff to be on board to help you do so. And a lot of people take vacation and take time off for the holidays. So your credentialing person and your onboarding person and the HR person and all this stuff, they may not be available to help you check all your boxes in order to get all your things done to meet your start date. I'm actually getting ready to start while we're home right now. I'm going to be doing a PRN job, and it's through a hospital system. And I'm just reminded right now of like all the onboarding headaches and the delays that can happen. So I got hired technically to start this new PRN job over a month ago, but I still haven't even had my first day of orientation yet because I had all these delays with my onboarding and my credentialing and stuff. And that's even well before the holidays start. Now, had I got hired for the job right now and then was trying to complete all my onboarding, my medical requirements and all that through the last 2 weeks of the year, there's no way it would happen in a timely manner because people just, they're out. They're like, oh, that person's out for the holidays. We'll see you next year. Yeah. So it's just a challenging time of year to get things done. So just fully expect that, like, if you're hoping to start right away at the beginning of the year, it might not actually be until like the middle of January that your genuine start date is going to be, or sometimes even the end of January.
Yeah, and you have to remember too with travel jobs, like when he's talking about this PRN job, she's communicating directly with the hiring person at this hospital. When you're taking a travel job, it's like this game of telephone where you're talking to the travel company, the facility's talking to the travel company, they're telling them requirements, you're trying to send requirements, and it gets like, there's a bottleneck often in the middle where somebody's out of office or whatever, and they can't send the information to get everything in line for you to start like in a quick, timely manner.
Yeah. So with that in mind, if you are thinking about starting in January, definitely start the process of reaching out right now. Middle of December, reach out to us if you want to get connected with recruiters. We can go ahead and get you, kind of started in the process. Start talking to recruiters, and then they can start submitting you for jobs and try to just get the ball rolling as quickly as possible. So that hopefully you can get things lined up for as early in January as you would like to start. But if that's not the case, if you're not too worried about it, it's too stressful for you right now, and you're like, I'm just going to wait till after the new year, that's fine. Just go into it knowing that if you do it that way, there may be a little bit of a delay in your start date.
Yeah, if you want to start any time in January, you really need to be talking to recruiters probably right now, because the next week and a half, 2 weeks is going to be very slow, and then even starting 2 and 3 weeks into January is going to be difficult because of all the paperwork and things that needs to be done before you can start.
Yeah. And if you're being really proactive and you don't even think you're going to start until 2027, then this is an FYI, or if you're listening to this podcast or video later, just an FYI, like whatever year that you're looking at to start in January, start earlier than you think. Ideally, we usually recommend that you start communicating and start the process 2 to 3 months in advance of when you anticipate your actual like start day for work being. So ideally, if you're planning on a January start, you would have started thinking about it back in like October or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about, kind of what to plan for, how to work around the holidays and the new year as a travel therapist. If there's anyone that's watching live that has any questions for us about this topic or other travel therapy topics, please let us know in the comments. Again, if you're watching live or watching later on the replay, we'd love if you'd hit the thumbs up button and also subscribe for future videos if you learned anything from this.
Yep. So starting in January can be difficult, but if you plan ahead, it's not as hard. Starting right now, if you were, say you're watching this video and you're like, oh, I really want to start in the middle of January and I've just been waiting, it's going to be hard to start in the middle of January, even getting connected with recruiters and stuff now. A lot of jobs are ASAP start dates, but that doesn't mean that you can start in a week. That means like you start the process and you start filling out paperwork and, submitting applications and interviews, and it takes several weeks in most cases.
Yeah, I'd say ASAP usually means 3 to 4 weeks generally. Allie says, Merry Christmas, Allie. Hope you're doing well.
Merry Christmas.
Where are you celebrating Christmas this year? We'd love to hear from any of you guys about your plans. Always, our DMs are wide open, so you can send us a message on Instagram or Facebook with any questions that you have. We're going to be spending Christmas at home this year in Virginia. We're going to have a few different family celebrations, but luckily all of our family is local within like 45 minutes, so it'll be nice to be home for the holidays. We're having a lot more winter weather here in Virginia this year than normal. We've had already 2 like pretty decent snows, 1 power outage, which was annoying. Allie says, Sebring, Florida, working on Christmas Day. Okay.
Yeah, Florida's a nice place to be for winter.
Yeah, and so hopefully it won't be too bad of a day. Actually, sometimes working the holidays, in our opinion, is kind of fun because you're usually in an inpatient setting, right? Those are the ones that are going to be open on the holidays. And, the patients don't necessarily want to be there either on the holiday, but you can help to bring them some holiday cheer.
And even the days leading, like I always love the end of the year because patients are busy. You get a lot of cancellations. Your days are usually more laid back. People are stressed, but for the most part, people are in a better mood and they're happier, either planning on spending time with family, planning get-togethers, or they just had get-togethers. So I always enjoyed working the end of the year and working holidays, and that was kind of something I looked forward to instead of just like wanting to avoid holidays at all costs.
Yeah, we usually do a lot of outpatient physical therapy contracts, and in outpatient, a lot of your patients will bring you treats, like lots of baked goods, maybe a little present here and there, and then occasionally you get cancellations, so then the days like aren't as busy and they're more laid back. Sometimes there's little dress up days. It's fun, especially also if you work inpatient, like they'll do dress up days for like your different scrubs that you're gonna wear, little different holiday things. So it's kind of fun. If you work skilled nursing, like the residents are doing cute little like crafts and fun activities. So so hopefully everyone has a great holiday season. Again, if you guys want to get entered for our end of year giveaways, you have 2 more weeks to get that done. We'll probably do the end of year giveaway video, I'm thinking sometime around like the 29th this year, but I'll take a look at the calendar and what we have going on and make an announcement on our social media pages.
It might be after the new year too, just depending on how things fall.
Yeah, we have some visitors coming from like the 30th through the 2nd, so it'll probably either be before or after, just depending on our schedules. But yeah.
And actually, when he was talking about starting her PRN job, she has orientation tomorrow.
Yes, so finally, after a month of just hoopla to try to get started, I have my first day of orientation tomorrow, so that'll be really interesting. I'm going to be posting a little bit about that on our social media pages. I want to tell a little bit about, we have a couple minutes because this is a pretty quick video. Something interesting that happened this time with my onboarding that I never have experienced before. So people ask us all the time about travel therapy resumes. And we usually say like, it's not that big of a deal. Your resume doesn't have to be perfect, because when you submit your resume to your recruiter at your staffing company, they just input it into your travel therapy profile. It doesn't actually usually go through as like what it looks like in your resume. So for us, we've typically always put the facility name as our work history. So it's like we worked at XYZ Physical Therapy Clinic in, Roanoke, Virginia. And we never had any problems. We've been doing this for 10 years. And no one's ever said that that was wrong. We've had some people that are like, oh, am I supposed to put the travel therapy staffing company? Like I worked with, ABC staffing company at XYZ facility. And we were like, no, that's just too many words. Like we don't put that. Well, when I went to go on board with this hospital, my background check actually got flagged. They couldn't verify my work history. So basically they thought, I was lying and that I never worked at any of these places. Well, it turns out what happened was they called the facilities to try to verify that I was an employee there, but I wasn't an employee at the facilities. I was staffed there through, a third party, through an agency. And so then I had to go through all this mess to resubmit my information and say, oh, actually, I worked there as a contractor through this agency. So then they had to go verify my employment with the agency, but it caused this huge delay in my start date. And I never had that before. I think it's because we typically do outpatient. And so maybe with outpatient, they don't do this whole background check thing.
This was a very thorough background check.
Yeah, luckily all my other stuff was fine. Like I don't have any felonies or any misdemeanors or any other problems. But my work history was difficult for them to verify. So just FYI, that's something that we have learned that apparently you should actually put on your resume, both the staffing company and the facility name, even though it does make it quite a bit longer.
And in some cases, it gets even more complicated because she had situations where she was working as a traveler at a skilled nursing that was contracted with a different company. So you're actually you're a traveler working for this rehab company, but that rehab company is at this facility. So you say you work at this facility, but you actually were working for the contracting company and also for the travel company.
Yeah. So many of you may have experienced that a lot of times skilled nursing facilities outsource their rehab. So even though it might be, this building name, the residents live at this building, they don't do their own therapy. They use, Genesis or one of the other therapy companies inside the building. So it can get a little bit complicated. And this was my first time having difficulty with a background check. I don't know if before, because we worked in hospitals before, but as a traveler, I don't know if our travel therapy agency just kind of took care of all that on the back end for us, because I never had any problem with it before.
Or honestly, it's probably not as thorough for travelers because it's temporary and she's applying for this PRN job that's could be semi-permanent, so probably a little bit different.
Yeah, so I've had some interesting time with this onboarding, but tomorrow I go and do the general hospital orientation that you have to do. That'll be all the employees, and then in the following couple weeks I'm going to do some actual training on the floor for, I don't know whether they're starting me in acute care or inpatient rehab, but it'll be interesting because we don't usually do acute care and inpatient rehab. It's been several years. What was it, 2017 or so, the last time we were in the hospital?
Yeah.
2018?
2017.
2017. So that's been 8 years ago that I've been in the hospital. So it'll be interesting. I'm excited about it. I want to try something new. And the thing I like about this hospital, I'll have the option to do acute, inpatient, and then also they have an outpatient department where I actually had an internship when I was a student. It's a really great outpatient hospital base that I would like to work at in the future. So I'll have the option also to float there in the future. So yeah, I'm excited about my new PRN job. I'll let you guys know how it goes.
If it goes well, I might also apply.
Yeah, Jared's gonna let me feel it out first before he decides to work there.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys are seeing this too, but in our area, almost every single clinic's hiring right now. You can almost just call any clinic and get a job there. It's really insane. Whitney decided to kind of inquire about this job. They had a full-time opening. She doesn't want full-time, she wants PRN. And within a few hours was on the phone with the manager. The manager's like, oh, we'd love to have you. And so this was an extremely quick process, and except for the whole actual onboarding, but in terms of getting hired, it was very fast.
Yeah, and she's just like, yeah, we'll use you wherever. Where do you want to work? I was like, what about the outpatient? What about where do you want to work? How many hours can you give us? They just need help.
Yeah.
It's a very good time to be a therapist in terms of, choosing your jobs and their need for you, and hopefully, negotiating on the terms that you need. So yeah, it'll be a new experience for me. I'm gonna get in there, maybe one day a week or a couple days a month. Mostly right now we're still staying at home, working on our business, working remotely on Travel Therapy Mentor, and then also kind of stay at home parenting to I keep calling her our new baby. She is over a year old now, but to me she's still very new. So yeah, mostly being a stay-at-home, work-from-home mom, but I want to get back in the clinic a little bit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a good time to be a therapist right now. a lot of you guys watching this or listening to this probably started in the last 5 years, and all you know is a good market for travelers and for permanent jobs. But there was a time like when we graduated PT school in 2015 where like finding permanent jobs in our hometown would have been really hard. We were like nervous about like, what are we gonna do if we don't travel? How are we gonna get jobs, and what are they gonna pay us? And like now it's just so different. Like there's probably 3 times as many travel jobs for PTs as there was back then, and permanent jobs, everywhere is hiring. So it's kind of nice to be in demand, and don't take it for granted because it can always change. And yeah, like I said, for 2015 to 2018, things were a lot different, and then really kind of after that, it's really shifted in our favor.
Yeah, and do always keep in mind, as we mention in pretty much every video, we talk about that, the supply and demand varies depending on the location and the setting and the discipline. So you may find that the location and the settings that you're looking for may not actually be in high demand. You may be having a difficult time finding things, but in general, across the whole U.S., therapists are in demand. You just may have to be slightly more flexible on the location and setting, just depending on what you're looking for.
Yep.
But, all right, guys. Well, thanks for those that tuned in live. And shout out to those of you that will listen later. Please feel free to send us a message anytime. If you are looking for help getting started as a travel therapist, we have a ton of information on our website at traveltherapymentor.com that can help you with the process of how to get started. You can go back and watch our old YouTube videos, listen to our old podcasts on various topics about getting started. You can also fill out our travel therapy recruiter recommendation form on our website at traveltherapymentor.com/recruiters. I will read your information and what your preferences are, and I will email you back with 3 recommended recruiters at 3 different companies. That's a completely free service, and the ball is 100% in your court. You can take the information and use it if you'd like and contact those recruiters, or if you don't like those recruiters, you don't have any obligation to work with them. Just happy to give you some recommendations and information.
Yep, and we've had over 6,000 people fill out that form now, so pretty experienced sending people to recruiters and companies that will work well for them.
Yeah. All right, well, reach out if you guys have any questions, and we'll see you back for our end of the year giveaways, whether that's like right before the beginning of the year or right after, we'll let you know. But happy holidays to everybody, and have a great end of the year.
Yep, take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.